Hi everyone, thanks for joining me once again. I'm going to be making another retirement video. I'm here with Edward. You might remember Edward from about a year ago when he first moved out here. I did a video on his apartment here, quite a small apartment. He's moving soon. Ed, thanks for joining me. Nice to see you again. So a whole year, how's it been?
It's been great. It really nothing bad I can think of.
No regrets about moving out here?
None at all. No.
So you were living in the suburbs in America, weren't you?
Yeah, Midwest area, suburb boy, most of my entire life. And one of the reasons I picked Bangkok was now it's more of a city side. So I'll do the city the second half of my life.
So where is it you actually come from in America? You did tell me a year ago, but that's a long time ago.
The Midwest Chicago area.
Right, and do you mind if I ask how old you are?
Not at all. I'm just turned 57.
Right, so what made you decide to move out to one, Thailand, and secondly, Bangkok?
In my life, I had an unfortunate occurrence where my mom passed away rather young, and I had a decision to make. I could either continue to work in America and probably work another dozen years or so and then retire in America, or I had enough funds to say if I just retired now, I could retire in Thailand. So I took a 4-week trip off to Thailand, and it was the first place I ever came to that I never wanted to leave. So I made my decision to retire in Thailand. And
what would you say are the main differences between where you've come from and living here in Thailand, good and bad?
You got an hour? So, I mean, I did not grow up in a city, so it's a different attitude here in the city. Bangkok has beautiful public transportation. And so that's a big aspect. Like I've been to the Philippines, and the Philippines is great. It just doesn't have the same infrastructure that Thailand has. So that's actually a big aspect for me. There's so many great things about Bangkok as well as Thailand. I mean, obviously people are watching and considering from retirement from an economics perspective. It's got a great economic advantage to retiring in a Western. And honestly, in my opinion, again, as we both get older, we also find the culture of in relationships, how they treat older men is much better than in the Western.
Okay, so what would you say the differences are between people who come here on vacation? Because we both come here on vacation, holiday for the people from the UK. If you come here on vacation, even if you've come several times, to actually live in here 365 days a year, what's the main differences you've found?
Well, the first thing is when you're on vacation, you're spending everything in your pocketbook.
Sure.
Right? You can't do that when you're here full time. You have to have a budget. If you don't have a budget, you're not going to be successful because the end result is you're going to run out of money.
Sure.
Unless you're independently wealthy, which in that case you can retire anywhere. So that's probably the biggest thing. But there's so many little things to do outside of the tourist area that you don't get to see as a as a tourist, right? Vacationer. I mean, I really like Mexican food, and it turns out there's a great Mexican place just a soy over that you'd never see if you were here as a tourist. Sure.
Yeah. And how do you feel that the actual Thai people treat you? Do you find them quite welcoming, or?
I would say yes. They are generally very welcoming in the area. They're great people. You treat them well, and they treat you well. I mean, granted, there's bad apples in every bunch, right? But that's not the norm here.
Is there anything you don't like about Thailand?
Sure. Anybody's going to be able to come up with something they don't like. As an example, there's a lot of things. I know some of your pet peeves from videos, like food not coming out at the same time. As an example, is one of yours. There's so many little things. But again, if you're patient and you're tolerant, they're just gonna run right off your back. One example is Thailand has the same address, if you will, or multiple addresses for the same location.
Crazy.
Yeah, I got a bus reservation last weekend, and I typed the address in Google, and Google didn't know where it was. Right. So you got to be able to deal with and adjust to those nuances.
Right. What actually convinced you to move out here at full time?
I'd say the three things was, one, that I vacationed and then realized I didn't want to leave, which was the first time it ever happened in my life. 2, the economics of it. Really, and the culture, again, the male-female culture versus the Western male-female culture.
So I believe you're retired, you're not working, right?
Correct.
So how do you spend every day? Because if you've got nothing to do, the time can drag on.
With a smile on my face every day. I mean, if I'm not exercising, I do volunteer some of my time for places back in the U.S. I have a lot of hobbies that I do. I think I mentioned on a previous video that I do like to game, so I'm one of the older generation gamers, so that's what a lot of that computer stuff back there is for. So I have a lot of things that I can keep me busy. There's never enough time in the day. My mom always used to say that, I always complained. She said she was always busy, and it's busy doing stuff you want to do, not busy doing stuff because you have to for work.
Sure. And if somebody was watching this and they're kind of sitting on the fence and they're thinking, do you know what, I've been to Thailand several times, I'm fed up with my life here, wherever they are in the world, financially I could move to Thailand, but I'm not sure. What would you say to those sort of people?
Well, if there's not an economic reason or a family reason that's stopping you, then I would say if it's just you're like, I'm not really sure, should I do this? Take a long vacation and see how you feel after a long vacation. And if at the long vacation you're still positive, then I would say take the plunge and give it a try. I mean, if you're totally unsure, then don't sell everything back home. Come out for a year and then make your transition. So you can make a very broad transition. I knew it was the thing I wanted to do, and I wasn't going back, so I made it as quick as possible.
Right.
And sold everything in 3 months.
So was there anything that you wish you'd have brought out here that you can't get out here? I think you can just about get everything out here now. There's nothing I personally that I can't get that I want. How about you?
So some things are a little more expensive, yes. I found out recently I can actually order from Amazon, which is big in obviously the U.S., and it just takes an extra week or two to get here. And yeah, you might have to pay import fees depending on what you're doing. You can also have friends and family send you care packages.
Sure.
So there's, I would say if you're moving and you have personal sentimental belongings and you want to ship them over, then those are things that you would obviously can't replace. So if there's things you can't replace, obviously bring those. But in reference to day in, day out items, I mean, pretty much everything's available here.
So what about things like visas and driving licenses and things like that? So for people watching this and they want to know how easy or difficult it is,
right.
How have you found it? Because I believe you're going to apply for your next visa yourself. You use an agent to do the first one.
Correct.
And how was that?
So when you come over, you typically have a tourist visa, unless you've arranged something beforehand, which is perfectly fine. And then you can use an agent to get a visa because you're kind of under a time crunch when you're on a tourist, unless you're doing a lot of traveling to other countries. I used an agent. I just wanted to get it done with. I didn't want to have any problems. But the second go around, because you get 15 months on the first visa you have, retirement visa. Second one, you get 12. So I'm going to do that in January because mine's going to expire in the first quarter of next year. I'm going to try to do it myself. I got my driver's license myself, and I think it's very manageable, especially with a little bit of assistance. I think you can do it.
And a lot of people who move out here, they move down to Pattaya because it is cheaper at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah.
The entertainment's cheaper. You've got the beach, some nice areas you can walk and what have you. What made you decide not Pattaya as opposed to Bangkok?
Predominantly because I think Pattaya is a wonderful place to visit. It's to me, it's a resort town, right? So I love to visit there, but I don't necessarily want to live in that community. You can go to Jumpton. Jumpton's beautiful too. Honestly, it was just the case that I do like exercising. I'm really close to a very nice park. I literally find myself walking places, and I kind of feel that if I was in Pattaya or Jumpton, I'd scooter more places.
Yeah, sure.
And I want the exercise. I'm walking to get dinner, I'm walking to do things, so it helps.
So if you could give somebody in America, for instance, or sitting in the UK, if you could give them 3 pieces of advice if they want to come out here and retire, because you've done it, I've done it, what 3 pieces of advice would you offer people out there?
Well, definitely get your financial house in order, right? Whatever that is. Make sure you have the budget to come out here. You can't come out here and live like a king on a pauper's budget, right? So you definitely need to make sure that your budget matches your desired lifestyle. After that, from a belongings perspective, like if you're back and you have rental properties and that's your income, well, make sure you have somebody to take care of your rental properties, right? I mean, the end result is you just can't do this as like, oh, I'm jumping on a plane and I'm coming. I mean, you can, but yeah, you're gonna have things that you're gonna have to fix back wherever you're coming from. Make sure you're good with separation from friends and family. right? If you have kids and are have grandkids soon, that could be a problem. You may realize that you're flying back and forth a lot. And if you are, and you're fine with that, that's okay too. You just have to think about the different scenarios that could come up in the next 5 or 10 years and make sure you've kind of planned for it.
We were talking before we started filming about there's some guys who they've got very little patience, and they could get really wound up out here. And I don't think maybe if they come out here on vacation, when you live here, you start to see things can get to you a little bit. They do with me, but not to the point where I get so angry. But like Edward said, when you go for a meal, 2 people, normally one meal comes out and you wait 5-10 minutes and then the second meal comes out. Right. But I mean, that's a big issue, isn't it, with people, guys who are not able to tolerate things like that?
Yeah, I think there is a decent list of things you have to tolerate, but they're not big issues. It's kind of like mosquitoes. Right. As an example, if you're the kind of person that one mosquito bothers you and you have to leave the room, those little things do exist in Thailand. I went to a very popular mall during the middle of the week at right around main time, and you would expect every store to be open, and the store I needed to go to was barred closed, right? And they can at will close their store. And it was a large store, they just closed their store. So, I mean, you have to be able to roll with the punches.
So what would you say your top 3, let's not say hates, but dislikes here in Thailand? We mentioned one of mine, which is the food coming out at a separate time. Is there any 3 that come to mind?
So I know this one is very popular, and you have to be able to deal with this. If you get into, whether it be a financial or you work, you're talking to somebody in a business or just in your personal life, if you're talking to a Thai in English, they're going to say they understand and they're going to nod along. And if they don't, they really probably don't understand. And you have to make sure that you realize that they're not really understanding. And if it's an important topic, you need to break out the translator and get that answer or get that message across. Don't assume that they actually know because they say that they know, because they really don't.
Yeah, and there's some really great translation services now. Google Translate and the line one where you can send a message in English and it automatically changes it over to text, and they can send it in Thai and it comes in. It's called. It's part of the line. I forget the exact name of the app, but
it's like EN to TH translator.
That's it, TH.
Yeah, and it's definitely a godsend for talking back and forth here.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, they don't have the line, then you can use Google Translator, as you mentioned, or you can use an app. Anything that works. But the point of the story is, don't believe them
when they say they understand you.
In English.
Sure. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but Google Translate actually have a conversation mode on there. So I used to translate like everybody else, just say it in English and show the phone. Right. But you can actually lay it on the table, press a conversation button, and you can actually have a conversation with a Thai, and it doesn't stop. It's just when they speak, it translates to English and vice versa.
Yeah, I've actually heard one of the new smart glasses is auto-translating now as well, except it doesn't offer Thai. So as soon as it offers Thai, I'm going to definitely buy a set of those.
I don't think I could wear them because I already wear glasses anyway. So what about the romance side of things? Would you say it's easier to hook up with a girl here, or more difficult than in America? Or?
Well, entertainment is a buffet in Thailand, as your viewers probably know. But let's talk more of a serious relationship. Sure. I think there is, especially somebody my age, my dating profile, definitely there's a lot more opportunity here to find somebody. But again, it's like anything else. There's things you're going to have to cope with, and you're going to have to cope with the language barrier, right? And that's something I'm willing to give and cope with for the right person. Whereas if you take the same situation and you go into the Western area, Western culture, it's a completely different dating market dating concept. So I'm much happier here from a social perspective.
So guys who come out and they want to do some serious dating, there are some red flags to look out for, isn't there? I mean, personally, I think the best way to meet decent women out here is on the dating apps. I mean, there are a lot of scammers and ladyboys and things like that, but you can find diamonds in the rough. I mean, what advice would you offer anybody on a dating site, for instance, or would you recommend them meeting a girl somewhere else?
Well, I'd say my personal experience, yes, dating sites are probably the predominant go. I'm trying a new strategy that I'm trying to perfect for meeting more people in person, because I think that's that's more genuine. I wish I would have had it ready to go, but I didn't. I saw a nice girl who was standing out in front of the condo on the with I think her mom.
You weren't after her mom, were you?
I wasn't after her mom. No, very nice girl, and I would have definitely tried it had it been ready. But the point is you got to be flexible. If you it's kind of like the saying they say, if you go looking for love, you're never going to find it. It's going to find you, type of thing. So, but I think you have to kind of be flexible and don't be afraid to just stop and say hi to somebody, right? And if they don't have time, they'll say they have boyfriend or they say they are married, and then just don't bother them and move on to somebody else, right?
I think one of the biggest differences with girls here as opposed to the West, if you smile at a girl, she'll normally smile back.
Yes.
Even if she has a boyfriend, for instance, it's the land of smiles. Right. It's very rare that if you smile at a Thai that they'll completely ignore you. Correct. And even when you go to buy a pair of glasses, for instance, you can ask them and they don't get angry. That's a good thing about here.
Yeah, they're definitely very approachable, but just be respectful. If they say, a lot of times, though I've seen in my experience, and I think you've seen this probably as yourself, is you ask a girl, oh, do you have a boyfriend? She goes, oh, I have a boyfriend. And then you ask a few more questions and you're polite and everything, and then it turns out she's just kind of saying she has a boyfriend.
Because she's shy, maybe.
Because she's shy or whatever, or just wants to save face in front of everybody else, right, that she has a boyfriend. But the end result is just be polite, be respectful, and everything will be fine. If she's not interested in talking, then just move on. And there are, I come from Chicago. There's about 2 million more people in Bangkok than there is in Chicago. So there's plenty of opportunity.
And what about friends? I mean, if guys are worried about coming here and being lonely, they can't meet anybody, they leave all their friends behind. How easy or difficult would you say it is to meet other foreigners here in Bangkok or anywhere in Thailand, actually?
Well, I think it's really up to your personal choice, what comfort level you have. If you're really outgoing, as an example, there's Facebook groups, there's membership groups that you can join. You can start following a lot of the YouTubers, and they probably sometimes have meetings. I know some of those guys have organizations. If you really want to meet people, nothing is stopping you other than yourself. So it's up to you. Now, if you want to be more private and you only want certain people, that's easy to do too. Just meet people and then decide whether or not you're going to talk to them on a regular basis or not. So
I don't know about Chicago or America, but definitely for the UK, when I meet expats out here who live out here, I just find them more approachable, much more friendly than I do in the UK. People are very closed in the UK. Would you say it's a similar situation with Americans?
I think, I'd say yes. And the reason I think that exists is because when you're in the UK or you're in the US, you're surrounded by everybody else in the US. So they kind of have their guard up, of who is this person talking to me. When you're out here, we are the minority, right? Whether it be the UK or the US. So, there's somebody else. So, I certainly want to talk to them and see what's their story. So I think it is a little easier to meet people out here. Yeah.
Sure. So if I put you on the spot now and ask you, what are your favorite 3 things about Thailand? So you moved out here, you've been a year. You could probably name 10. I know I can, but what would be your top 3 things that you're glad that you moved out here to live?
Well, I guess the culture is great, and that encompasses so many things. I'm using vague terms because it can just whether it be the culture, the people, their attitudes, whether it be their concept about food, whether it be their exercise, all things encompassed in culture. Certainly, I like the economics of it as well. I would have to penny pinch if I was in a Western country where I can live much more extravagantly here on the same amount of money. And I'd say just the people in general. I would change the climate if I could, but it's. I have the choice. Is it winter and a little bit of summer, or is it a lot of summer and very little winter?
Sure.
I'll take the lot of summer over winter.
Yeah, sure. I mean, for me, it's not about the heat. It's, it gets up to 38 degrees. I can stand that, but it's the actual humidity. Because it's like, I believe it's 88% humidity, and it's a killer, isn't it? I mean, it just wears you down. But this is a great time of year now. I'm dating this video now because we're just about a week away from December, and the temperature's cooled down. It's still a little bit humid, but it's nice, isn't it, in the park and stuff?
Yeah, it's good, especially in the morning. And morning's the best here if you want to get out, in my opinion. Night is really good too if it gets later on and you're a night owl. I just had my friend send me a video from his yard, and he had snow coming down in his yard. Yeah. So I'm like, looks really pretty, and I'm glad I'm not standing in it.
For sure.
So, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about finances, money and stuff. I'm not going to ask you your personal details, but what would you recommend for people, how to bring money out here, how much at a time they should bring out here, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so it was it was an interesting learning experience. You walk down the mall and you'll see people in 25 lines, people deep in trying to get the super rich to do currency exchange. They're trying to save, $6 in the whole process. And what I actually found is that Wise is the best for me. Again, it's up to everybody's individual opinion, but for Wise, there's two big advantages. First, you get basically bank rate currency exchanges between U.S. and Thai baht. You do have to pay a little bit of a handling fee, but when you factor it all in, it's the best rate I found for currency exchange. And then number two, if you keep most of your money in your local funds, in my case, U.S. dollars, you get paid an interest on top of it. And currently, it's well over 4%.
4.6, I think. For us.
It all depends on your country, but that's more than you're going to get from a savings account pretty much anywhere else. So that's the best for me. It's quick, it's easy, it's on demand. They have pretty good customer service for expats. So I would highly recommend Wise.
If you haven't heard of Wise before, it used to be called TransferWise. It's now called Wise. If you look below in the description, there is a link. You click that and that will take you over to Wise, and it will tell you all about how to move money. And you can open a bank account here now, even as a tourist.
Correct.
Thai Legal Protection will do that for you. Again, there's a link in the description. So where can you see the future?
Well, I think I'm going to be in Bangkok for at least a few years, at the bare minimum. I think that maybe in some point in the future I may go out in a more rural area, especially if I find somebody and we're kind of like settling down, so to speak.
Couple, as it were.
But honestly, I even before that, it might just be, okay, well, I'm in Bangkok and there's a vacation area to go to, that type of thing, just to change it up a little bit. I don't see much changing. I'll still visit the U.S. I won't visit as often or as long. I think that will wind down. But ultimately, I think I'm going to be in Bangkok for a number of years.
One thing I'd like to ask you, if it's not too personal, and please tell me if it is. So you're moving from this one-bedroom apartment to a two-bedroom apartment.
Correct.
But it's kind of been a bit of a nightmare with the contract and the ownership and the deposits and everything. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Because I found that really strange, how the owner, the money going out the country and stuff like that, and the agent.
So my current landlord for this unit is a Thai national citizen, and everything was relatively pretty smooth for that. The new two-bedroom I'm going to happens to be owned by a foreign national. So there's issues that come to bear. One of the big issues is they're having an agent collect the money, and the agent's listed on the lease. Well, in that particular case, the lease needs to have a power of attorney. So it says the agent has full control to lease this and collect money, so that nobody can come back and the owner can't come back and go, well, I never got any of your money that you paid for rent. And then they take me to court and I have to pay them twice, right?
Or very worst, keep your deposit.
Yeah, exactly. So there's other little things that we're working on from the lease. So it's been much more complicated than the first time around. But not because of the building, or not because of the unit, or not because necessarily the price. It's just because a difference in landlords.
And why have you decided to go from I mean, this is, what's this, 32 square feet? It's relatively small, isn't it?
Let's see, square meters, I want to say, meters, I think it's 34.
34 square meters. And how big is your new place?
I want to say it's 54.
54, and it's got an extra bedroom, I believe.
Yeah, it's 2-bedroom, exactly. So I'm going to use the second bedroom for an office. The computer will go in there. And predominantly the thinking is if I do have a significant other, a partner, I might want to be talking to the U.S., my friends and family, at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? Which is only 2 o'clock there. I don't want to disturb her if she's working. So she can be in the bedroom and I can be in a different room. I can have a hideaway bed, maybe a couch in there, and the end result is it offers a little bit of separation, especially if you get into an argument. You know how those arguments go. So you go to that corner, you go to that corner.
What about, you said it's 2-bedroom, and this is a 1-bedroom. So that's great. Good luck with the move. So I just want to ask you something else that people might not be expecting. Have you ever met any of these guys out here who have moved out here and they've just come out here without enough money, and they're basically they have a chip on their shoulder? They've got a real bad attitude. They blame the staff for things going wrong. And have you met any of them?
I have not met any of them directly. I suspect I've seen a couple walking the streets, but I've never really talked to them. But no, I have not met anybody directly that is in that scenario.
You get a few of them in patio. I've actually not met them face to face, but I've witnessed certain things. And I mentioned on one of my live streams once years ago, I was really happy in a bar I was in and left 100 baht for the waitress. And a guy who was sitting next to me was a resident there. He basically turned around to me and said, "You're spoiling it for the people who live here because you're leaving 100 baht. We leave 20 baht." You know, and I thought that was a little bit strange. So each to his own. But yeah. Good luck with the move. Is there anything you want to add to any advice you'd offer guys before we end this?
I would say don't worry as much and just actually, as long as you don't have an obligation that's blocking you, don't worry. Take the chance. I think you're going to really love it. If you are, you could play it cautious and draw it out, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that. Do what's best for you, but I think you're going to find, especially if you can afford to do it, you know, every day is a smile out here for me.
Yeah, sure. So, look, guys, if you've got any questions, you think we've left something out of this interview, or you'd like to ask Ed a question, just drop a comment in below, and I'm sure I'll be in contact with Ed again, and he can answer your questions, or I can. I mean, I've lived out here for 2 years now. I've actually just signed my 3rd year's lease. I can't believe it. Do you find time goes really quick out here compared to back home? It flies by, doesn't it?
It does go quick. I think, at least in my experience, being retired makes it go very, very quick because you're always doing something. It's always enjoyable. It's fun. It's not miserable.
You don't
it's
do
miserable
things,
and time goes real slow, right? So the question that when we made the video on this unit here when I moved in a year ago, I did get a question, and I'll just throw it out there. You can include it if you want or not. But since I mentioned I'm a gamer, it's like World of Warcraft, 7 Days to Die, Imperium. So if you're interested in playing all those games and you're available,
that's all online, isn't it?
It's all online.
Yeah, because I just don't have time for that stuff because YouTube takes up. It's like a full-time job. You know, not that I'm complaining about it. I enjoy filming. The editing sometimes is a little bit laborious,
right?
But you know, it keeps me busy. And I suppose if I didn't have YouTube, I'd be playing games with you.
One thing I will say is I did just get back from Surin and the Elephant Festival, and I highly recommend if you like animals or especially elephants. The Surin Elephant Festival is a once-a-year thing, and it was always in November, and it was an excellent trip.
Yeah, and there's some great parks here as well. I took my daughters when they visited me here to a park near Hua Hin, and it was a sanctuary actually. You know, it was they had all sorts of different animals that they're rescuing. Really nice places to visit. There's a lot to do here, isn't there? You don't want to be stuck in the bars. You know, come to Bangkok and just be in the bars every night.
Well, I don't know if I should admit this, but I haven't been in the bars since I've been back.
Well, I used to be in the bars all the time years ago, but you know what? I've kind of grown out of it now, and I enjoy the daytime. I try and wake up, get out there in the daytime. There's a lot to do. I certainly don't want to be wasting my time in bars all the time.
I think the key is there's a lot of entertainment value out there besides just bars.
Sure. All right, Ed, good luck with it. Thanks for agreeing to do this again.
Absolutely.
I hope the move goes well, and maybe you'll invite me to film your new apartment with the 2 bedrooms. I'll get another video out of this. Bit cheeky, but when are you due to move?
We're supposed to hopefully refine the contract today, and hopefully I'll move on Friday.
Right. Okay, well, good luck with it again. Yep. Okay, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching this again. Now, if you like these kind of interviews, these interviews with guys who are retiring out here, because there is a lot of guys coming out here now, not just Americans, Europeans as well, and Australians. If you like these kind of videos, let me know, and I'll try and find other people to interview. I quite enjoy talking to people like this myself, but of course I'm here to entertain you, so you let me know what you want to watch. All right? Thanks again, and I'll be back real soon with another video.